On my 27th birthday, the air tasted like champagne and lies. The restaurant was a gilded cage of crystal and forced laughter. My mother's perfume was a weapon. My father's smile, a polished shield. I was playing my part in the familiar family theater, the struggling daughter, the grateful beneficiary of their distant concern. Then my grandfather arrived. Robert Hart. His presence was a tremor in our perfectly constructed world. He didn't sit at the head of the table, he occupied it, his calm a stark contrast to my parents' sudden, brittle tension. He raised his glass, his eyes, the same shade of steel gray as mine, locking onto me. "So, Evelyn," he said, his voice cutting through the trivial chatter. "How does it feel to be a millionaire? How have you enjoyed your $3.4 million trust fund?" The world didn't just tilt, it shattered. "What trust fund?" The words were a whisper, torn from a place deep inside me I'd long since buried. The silence was a physical thing, heavy and suffocating. My mother's hand, frozen mid-gesture, looked like a porcelain doll's. My father's face drained of all color. And my grandfather? He was calm. Terribly calm. "The one I set up for you," he said, his gaze never leaving my parents. "The one they were entrusted to give you on your 25th birthday." That's when I knew. This wasn't a birthday dinner. It was an autopsy. And I was the body on the table. My name is Evelyn Hart, and for 27 years, I was a ghost in my own life. I lived in a tiny apartment in the Mission, where the paint peeled in sympathy with my spirit. I was a freelance designer, trading sleep for rent, while my parents floated in a world of marble and mutual funds just 20 minutes away. Our conversations were scripts. "How's work?" "Fine. We're proud of you." Lie. The last time they'd surprised me was at graduation. I stood there, gripping a diploma and $70,000 in debt, and they handed me a book, Financial Literacy for Young Adults. I cried that night, not from the insult, but from the final, crushing understanding that I was truly on my own. A week before my birthday, I lost my job. When I called my mother, voice trembling with panic, she'd clucked her tongue. "You'll figure it out, dear. But don't be late for dinner. Atelier Cren. Dress nicely. $300 a plate." That was their solution to my crisis. A performance of wealth, while I was drowning in the reality of poverty. So I went to my execution. I wore my one black dress and rode the bus, watching normal people live normal lives, envying their simple, uncurated happiness. And then Grandpa arrived. His hug was the first real thing I'd felt all night. When he asked his question, he wasn't just asking me. He was swinging a sledgehammer at the foundation of my world. In the private room, with his lawyer and assistant, the truth unspooled like a nightmare. The trust was valued at approximately $3.4 million, the lawyer said, his voice sterile. As of this morning, the balance is $214.57. The numbers hung in the air. $1 million for the mortgage. Hundreds of thousands for their Teslas. A beach house in Malibu. A beach house. All paid for with my future. My mother tried to cry. My father tried to bluster. We were managing it for her. She would have wasted it. I looked at them, these strangers who had given me life and then systematically stolen it back. "You gave me a book on budgeting," I said, my voice eerily calm. "While you were buying a beach house with my money." That's when my grandfather slid a set of keys across the polished table. The keys to the Pacific Heights apartment, my apartment, the one they'd been renting out. "They were planning to run, Evelyn," he said quietly. "Bought tickets to Costa Rica." This dinner was their farewell. The betrayal was so complete, so cold, it was almost beautiful. I picked up the keys. They were cold in my hand. The weight of them was the weight of everything they had taken. My freedom. My security. My trust. "Grandpa," I said, my voice finding a strength I didn't know I possessed. "I want it all back. Every single penny." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I made a decision. In the weeks that followed, I became someone new. I met with lawyers, signed papers, and watched as the life they had built on my stolen foundation was dismantled brick by brick. The cars were repossessed. The Malibu house was sold. The restitution orders were signed. The day the final asset was transferred, I stood alone in the silent, sun-drenched apartment in Pacific Heights. It was mine, free and clear. I ran my hand over the cool marble of the countertop, not with vengeance, but with acknowledgement. This was the cost of their lie. This was the shape of my truth. I didn't press criminal charges. Prison was too easy an escape. I wanted them to live in the world they had created for me, one of uncertainty, of scraping by, of understanding the true price of things. Let them learn the value of what they had so carelessly stolen. Now, when I look out over the bay from my balcony, I don't see a prize won. I see a peace earned. The silence in my home is no longer empty, it is full of my own choices, my own strength. They taught me that family is everything. And I learned the lesson better than they ever intended. Sometimes, the only way to save your family is to save yourself from them. Flex, revenge, a more aggressive and attractive alternative. This version leans into a darker, more empowered and attractive, in a confident, formidable sense, persona for Evelyn. Title: I let them dig their own grave. They stole $3.4 million from me. My own parents. For my 27th birthday, I gave them the gift they deserved, financial ruin. I walked into Atelier Cren looking like the struggling daughter they expected. The one in the off-the-rack dress, with the tired eyes. I let them patronize me. I let my mother criticize my posture. I let my father offer empty platitudes about my dead-end career. I was the perfect victim. Right up until the moment I wasn't. When my grandfather asked the question, I didn't look shocked. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "I was hoping you'd ask." The color draining from my parents' faces was more satisfying than any champagne. The private room wasn't their containment strategy, it was mine. My grandfather's lawyer? I'd hired my own a week prior. The forensic audit was already complete. I didn't cry. I presented evidence. I didn't beg. I negotiated. You took my future, I told them, my voice as cold as the ice in my grandfather's glass. So I'm taking yours. Every property. Every car. Every stock portfolio you bought to hide the money. It's all coming back to me. My mother spat, "You ungrateful little." I cut her off. The gratitude ended when I realized you were charging me rent for an apartment I owned while you vacationed in Bali. I was no longer the ghost in their world. I was the CEO of my own revenge. And I was spectacular at it. I didn't just get my money back. I took their social status. I exposed them to their country club. I made sure every one of their friends knew exactly who they were, thieves who preyed on their own child. Now, I live in the penthouse they bought with my trust. I wear the confidence they tried to beat out of me. And when they call from their one-bedroom rental, begging for a loan, I give them the same advice my mother gave me when I lost my job. You'll figure it out. You always do. Some fires don't destroy, they forge. And I emerged from their betrayal harder, sharper, and infinitely more powerful. Revenge isn't a dish best served cold.